So just take a moment wherever you are, just to recognize where you are. Yeah. Recognizing where you are, just letting the body settle a little bit. The way you let the body settle is just to come into contact with the body. Yeah. And we're always in contact with the body. But when you make contact with your presence awareness, now there's a certain aliveness that sometimes we miss. So all you need to do is just feel your hands, feel your feet. Notice the sensation in the body wherever you notice it. You notice the sensation wherever you notice it. The breath becomes clearer. So be clear with your breath. It just means give it space. Notice your body in space, the way it takes up space, the way it rests in space, the way it sits in space. And we often have a tendency to attach to a lot of the ideas in our mind, a lot of the rumination, a lot of the thoughts, a lot of the plans, a lot of the to-do lists. There's always an opportunity just to recognize that thoughts are just thoughts, ideas, ruminations. It's just happening. And straight away when you recognize that, again, there becomes a little bit of space. And so now we make contact with the mind. And in this making contact with the body, making contact with the breath, making contact with the mind, we're not trying to manufacture something or create something out of the ordinary. We're just looking directly at the ordinary and making contact with the body, with the breath, with the mind like this. What we're really making contact with is our presence awareness. So just make contact. Make contact. Make contact means go directly to it. And so when you make contact or you go directly to this presence of your awareness, it doesn't have a name necessarily. Yeah? It goes beyond the concepts of me and mine, and what happened to me and my history, my plans, my ideas, all of my thoughts about it. See if you can just go to that. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It's just the naked presence. It's like you take all of the clothing off of the stories, of the name, of the thoughts about it, and just in a matter-of-fact way, just be with that. And sometimes in order to be with that, we need to look at the places where we are contracted. Physical places of contraction, in the jaw, around the eyes, the shoulders, the belly. And psychological places of contraction, in the mind, in the thoughts, in the memory. And if you come to it like that in such a simple way, you could say that it's without qualification. You say it's not quantifiable, it's immeasurable. We could be it could be easy to mistake that or this for a form of mindfulness, like a clinical kind of mindfulness that helps us just to pay more attention in life, to have a more functional life, more operative life, which is a good thing. And sometimes we need that, and there are very good teachings there. But we could be mistaking that for this, because this is it's much more than just that. To look at that naked presence without any words and see that it is with what is looking. It is what you essentially are before the ideas about what you are. And then to say that it's immeasurable or without qualification, without measurement. There's no distance that you go to get to it. You can't measure it because you can't really find an edge to it or a center to it. And now we're in a very wide open space that is before everything that happened to you, everything that you think you are. And then you just listen. If you go to that place, you listen, and if there are thoughts in the mind, they're just movements, passing clouds. You don't have to interact with them, you don't have to listen to them, you don't have to not listen to them. They're just there. You don't have to stop anything or change anything. If there are contractions in the body, you can be with it, you can feel it, you can see it, you can sense it, but you don't even have to uncontract it. You don't have to perform a function. No? And so there are a lot of practices we do, a lot of practices we talk about, but this presence awareness, it kind of takes us beyond practices because it's not a matter of doing something or changing something, not a matter of creating something, not a matter of generating something that wasn't there, because it's just what was already there. And so another way we come to that is just by putting our attention on silence, the silence of this presence. And in the same way, you don't need it to be quiet outside to perceive this silence, to be with this silence. It could be very noisy and you could still be right at home in this silence. And stillness as well. We could come and sit in stillness and perceive this stillness, but you could also be moving. The world could be moving, everything could be moving so fast, and this stillness you can find that hasn't moved. It's at the heart of all movement. And so we come to this presence and awareness, come to this stillness and this silence, this place that is without disturbance. Because many of us come here and many of us do all sorts of things because we've been moved by disturbances. No? And many of us come here because those disturbances have moved us to come to places of deeper presence as well. There's a question to talk about forgiveness. I talk about forgiveness a lot. We'll see if we get to that. Because we recently just sat in ceremony, I'm finding myself trying to cling onto the incredible afterglow and trying not to hold onto it too hard. What a beautiful thing. But there's a sense that you're clinging to that afterglow and wanting it to be there, and that there's a sense that you know that it will kind of fade and you'll forget about it. And maybe it's just an afterglow, maybe it's just a beautiful thing, and you got to come down from the clouds, etc. I always think that in these places of the afterglow of the ceremonial work, it's the place to water your garden and plant seeds for how you know it to be, how you know your mind can be, the peace, the quality of attention and awareness, the noticing of the little details. The things get brighter and more colorful, things make more sense. There's a relinquishing of the attachment toward the general neuroses of things. Generally I see a lot of people, and we're quick to judge. We're quick to form opinions. We're quick to be swallowed by the monster of doubt. And after a retreat, meditation retreat, medicine retreat, drinking ayahuasca, coming psychedelic assisted therapy, there's an aspect, even neurologically, it's we call what's called the me center in the brain. Studies show that it kind of shrinks when we do these things. So this self-inflammatory, inverted place that always worries and is concerned about me and mine, me, myself, and I, it gets inflamed. And that happens for many, all of us, in various ways. And so when we take up these practices or paths or things that offset that inflammation and offset that inversion, we go from having these blinders where it's just me, myself, and I, and then they come down, the veil lifts or the blinders come down, and our perspective shifts. That's why I tell many people, it's most of what we do in these types of work is just experiencing the different view of perspective, and then we see that when we are stuck, that's just a different perspective. But if we gain a larger vantage of perspective, that changes everything. We're very fortunate here in Australia. We are on a little hill, so there's a lot of vista. There's a lovely view. You have a wide open expanse. And when you see from a wide open expanse inside of yourself, it changes the way you look when in the contracted places. It changes how the contracted places look. So you want to hold on to that afterglow, and finding yourself clinging to the incredible afterglow, trying not to hold on too hard. The funny thing about holding on is you don't have to try not to hold on. No. Letting go is something that happens naturally just when you allow it to be. So if you're experiencing an incredible afterglow after the ceremony, great. Don't feel bad about that. But you're recognizing the wisdom that you can't maintain it. You can't will it to be there longer than it will be there, and you can't will it to leave before it wants to go. And in that place, there's a different type of glow. It's not an afterglow, it's not a before glow. It's a glow that's already there in the understanding that you can't hold on. And you can't let go either. It's just this kind of natural resting. It's this natural thing that's there. And you come to peace with that. But I was saying, in that afterglow, it's the opportunity and the moment to plant seeds in your garden and to water your garden for how you know your mind can be, for how the view can be, how the vista can be, how the vast expanse can be. Because that's the way that the brain learns, the body remembers. And it kind of up-levels the standard. So then when it dips back into different things, or dips back into like a state that was very normal, it's less satisfactory because we know that we could do better. And then it leads us to look at some things that we're not seeing or not feeling or not finding. But the real fruit of it is just seeing and feeling and finding what is right here. What is right here in the immediacy of my sensation and feeling and mind. When I don't interfere, when I don't want it to be anything else other than what it is. There's a real beauty in that, and that makes the world much, much more colorful. Even if it looks bleak, if you accept it to be bleak, now you're looking at it, now you're intimate with it, now you're in a relationship with it. Because if you think of that as bleak and you don't know what to do with it, now you're at odds with it, now you're at war with it. Now you want it to be somewhere else or some way else other than what it is, and that's just not the way that it works. And so then we struggle and we live in a fantasy inside of our mind, wishing it to be a different way. So how do you not cling to the incredible afterglow? And just let it be. Water the seeds in your garden. Tend to your garden. But I'm glad you're feeling an afterglow, Jacinta. It was worth it, huh? That first night. Yeah. And so a friend I was speaking with on a call with Haley a couple of days ago, and she said in one of the recent ceremonies in the States, I said that you can't have peace without coming to peace with grief. And if I can talk about that. So we're going to kind of spend a little time and just look at that first. So she said, you can't have, I said, you can't have peace until you come to peace with grief. And I think that was a topic of that night with some of us. It's something that we're all touched by in some ways. We've all met in some ways, some bigger than others. You know, the grief of a loved one, a family member, a parent, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a job, the moving of somewhere different. You know, little griefs and big griefs, but the mourning of something that is missing, right? And so, what is it to mourn? What is it to grieve? Because it's probably something that we all have in common, something that we're all. None of us are not subject to, something that we all have to face and hold inside of our heart, inside of our mind, being a human being. There's a Sufi saying, I think it comes from Rumi, maybe it's a modern one. It says basically that the heart must be broken open. The heart must break many times to be opened. Or we must break the heart. We must keep breaking the heart until it opens. That through some of our difficulties, the wounds, the openings, these are the places where, as you say, the light gets in. You know, that old saying from Rumi, the wound is where the light enters. So we must break the heart until it opens. It's kind of a romantic idea, but it's like spiritual physics, you know? If the heart cracks, if it breaks, then the boundaries or the limits where I usually see myself and life, self and other, they start to blur, start to become more tender. And so the saying, it comes from the Sufis, and the Sufis weren't about a Hallmark kind of love. They weren't about comfort either. They were about dissolution into love, into the flames of love, like a moth to a fire. And in that same ceremony, one of my friends here, he said, what do I do with this grief? And I said, you don't do anything with grief. No. Quite often we have an idea that we want to fix and fidget and figure out and try to make right. Try to make peace, try to manufacture peace, try to come to peace with these difficulties. But if we don't do anything with it, we let it be there, then it's just there. You know? And can I be at peace with that? And is the moment of allowing it to be there, is that a type of peace in and of itself? Because if I want it to be some other way, if I think that it needs to be healed, if I think that it needs to be fixed, then again I'm at odds with myself. I'm at odds with the moment as it is. I want it to be some other way than what it is. I want things to last in a different way. I'm not accepting reality. And so if we just allow ourselves in those places, to be embraced by those spaces, in that allowing there is a space, and that space, it gives us a different way of relating. It's like the heart breaking open, the seed cracking in its potential. It's not until the seed cracks that it sprouts. If we keep holding on to the seed, all of its potential stays inside of it. But when it breaks, it's the beginning of what comes next. And so we don't get to know what's inside of the heart until it's open. We don't really get to open the heart until it cracks. And that exposes this other strange thing, that when there is grief, it's because we love and because we have loved. And so this other strange aspect is that grief, the tenderness that we feel for loss, is because we have loved, is because we have held something dear and cherished something dear and close to us. And to say that there is love in grief is a strange thing for some of us. If we say that there is love in grief, then grief, sometimes it's called like a monster. Sometimes it's called like a big dark thing that hangs over our shoulder and doesn't kind of leave us alone and is there and will linger around. But if you turn to face that monster and say, wow, you are here because of love. You are here because I have loved. It's not a monster anymore. No? Yeah, the face of grief changes when we see that it has the seed of love as well. There's no grief without love, you could say. And so the face of grief, when it changes, now it looks different because we look differently at it. We look differently with it. And then there we're taking the labels off, the ideas off. If you take away the label of grief, the story of what happened, of what didn't happen, of what came to an end, the memory, if you take all those things away and you be completely present with it, and you say, what is it? If you can't call it grief, if you can't attach it to a memory or a story or a person, a place, event, what is that bittersweetness? And then you sit with that. Now you come naked to it. Because most of the thing that haunts us, most of the thing that hooks us, it's not necessarily the love of the person or the situation, but the attachment to the person or the situation, or what it meant for us. And that attachment, it's usually something that we identify around, and we take it to affect us in a certain way because it means something for myself, I, me and mine, and how I look and how I confront the world. There's another aspect as well that I just want to plant a seed, that there's a great honoring in grief as well. To have loved, to have held, and to honor that thing that has come to an end is a type of honoring that also is worthy of our respect. It's like a treasury, to hold that thing alive in the flame of our heart, because even though it's gone, we want to hold that flame alive because we can be here as a steward to the life that it did have. And that's a very beautiful thing. There's a poetic sweetness in the bitterness and the pain of love and loss. But when it haunts us and when it hangs around and when it is a monster, if we take away the glasses that view it as such and call it such and remember it as such, it looks very different. And from that place, we see that most of the thing that causes us our sorrow is this attachment. And we see this a lot with many of the neuroses that ail us. Is the way that it affects our identity, the way that it makes us look a certain way, or we attribute it to who we are in a certain way. In the Buddhist canon, one of the routes would be to apply the antidote, and the antidote for attachment is detachment. Detachment, when it comes into here, detachment is non-attachment, detachment is letting go, detachment is surrender. Detachment is many things, but to work with detachment, I recently heard a story of a Western Tibetan Lama monk, and he was at a funeral and somebody asked him how he can deal with such sorrow of losing somebody, the monk at the funeral, and they're performing a ritual to one of his closest friends. And somebody asked him, how can you deal with such suffering and such loss? And he just said one word in Chinese, I think, and it just meant detachment. And it's not cold, just to reframe these things. Detachment sounds cold to us, to some of us, but to look at it not as a cold thing, not as a disconnected thing, not as an indifferent thing, but as a light thing, something very light. So if attachment is holding a tight fist, attachment, and then detachment is just an open hand. It's like we're holding onto a rope very, very tightly, and then detachment is just letting the rope go, letting the hand open. And detachment in this sense, it is an accepting of the nature of reality, that everything comes and goes of its own accord. The sensations in your body arise of their own accord. The breath arises of its own accord. The thoughts arise of their own accord. What are you in accord with? When we can see the cyclical nature of life, that things arise, come, and go, that's a fact, no? Our holding on to it, wanting to be different or wanting it to be some other way, is something that hurts us. Now then love gets the blame. We say, I loved so hard that it hurts, or love hurts, love, there's pain in love, there's grief in love, there's loss in love, and all these things. But it's not love that hurts. What hurts us is this very grip that holds and wraps itself around it. And it wraps itself around it by creating a story about who we are in the light of that grasping or that holding. And the reason why we hold so tightly is not because we don't know how to detach, how to let go, or that because detachment or letting go is hard. It's because we prefer to hold on, because it reinstalls the idea of the identity. It gives us a sense of who we are, and it feeds something inside of us. We like it, no? Also, when we cannot detach from the world, the reality of the world, in a way to let it be, to see for what it is, there's a strange thing which kind of comes as an avoidance. It's like if we fail to accept that movement of life, we avoid it by looking in all different sorts of places to try to distract ourselves from it. No? Some of you, many people in here, a therapist of some kind, or do some facilitation of some kind, and I find it fascinating. Sometimes you have people who, for example, at the end of a session, we know that the time is about to end, and then they will bring something really heavy or really deep or really big. And on one side, the safety is just opened up so much that they can be so safe to open up. And on that side, we think, oh, like now we're getting somewhere. Oh, this is so big, I can't just leave it open and hanging like this, But on another side, it can also be this other aspect of fear of detachment, fear of something ending, and the avoidance of that thing ending. And so we continually feed into the thing that we feed into, the owning of that story, the holding on to the idea, because we're avoiding the scary part, which is letting things come to an end, letting things go, opening that hand. And now we're onto like a really interesting territory, because now we can kind of put our finger on this squirmy, wriggly part of ourself. The squirmy, wriggly part of ourself that is terrified of letting go. The squirmy, wriggly part of ourself that wants to hold everything, that wants to save everything, that wants to figure it all out. The squirmy, wriggly part of ourself that feels shame and guilt and confusion by it all. The scary, wriggly part of ourself that wants to go and lock itself in a room because it's all too hard. And that scary, wriggly part of ourselves, now, like, what is that? Who is that? And then you bring it to this place. We start to. It's really wise to come to this place, like the threshold between attachment and letting go, like where the contraction happens and where the openness begins. Because it's not necessary to just throw yourself into the open. Sometimes it's good to kind of titrate, to rock back and forth between those places, to get comfortable there. But when we see this squirmy, wriggly part of ourselves, you bring that place to that water's edge. You look at that squirmy, wriggly part of yourself. And the same thing with the grief. If you take off the name, if you take off the story, if you take off all of the things that give it its identity. What is it? Who is it? What is there? Because on either side, there is an openness. If you question and if you investigate the grief, it leads you to a kind of a love. It leads you to a kind of an openness. If you question your identity, you put it under the microscope, again, it leads you into a kind of openness. It leads you into a kind of centerlessness. If you really want to let go and practice detachment of things, not to become pessimistic or nihilistic to say that nothing matters, but to be in a place to allow everything to be, to let the things rest, to let things be with you. And then you could look at anything. You can look at a flower, is what I share. And you just look at the flower and you let it bring you to presence. And then you see that everything is always looking back at you with that presence. If you look with that presence, it's a different type of looking, it's a different type of function. And if you look from that place and you listen from that place, you see that everything's held in that place. It's a very important place to come to find, to discover, and to come from. I had a client just this week, and she had a very, very beautiful session. She said she went to this place. She didn't come from, perhaps no religious or spiritual thought or philosophy or anything like this, but she came out and she said, I realized everything is love. I said, how are you going to explain that? Because the rational mind can't explain that. But there's something in us that knows that. And she says, I had so much doubt. I see in my life where there's so much doubt about different decisions or things, and how that keeps me down like this. And I said, well, this love that you found, can you trust that? And she said, yes, 100%. I'm completely certain about that. I can trust nothing else. And so that replacement therapy, finding the antidote, you bring trust to doubt. How do you find trust? It's something I've been asking people to do lately, is to find trust. And even write the word down, because the word, it's no joke, and sit with that word and figure out what it means. Because trust is surrender. Trust is the complete unknown. Trust is letting go. Trust is uncertainty. You can't be, if you're certain about trust, no, it's a trust in what is uncertain. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so if you see that secular nature of reality, see that we can't actually hold anything in our life. No? Everything that we hold is temporary. And that's a sad and painful thing. And it's a very, very beautiful thing. So beautiful. So beautiful. The beauty of art, the beauty of a flower, the beauty of everything that is beautiful is simply because it is temporal, because it doesn't last. Yeah. If it always stayed the same, it wouldn't be beautiful. But the flower, it has a short life. You say, wow, look at it. And there's its aroma. You get to smell it. The seasons, the way they change. Change is a beautiful phenomenon. It's a beautiful thing. Phenomena means that which appears. The life of appearances. See, the bird just flew by. What appears is beautiful because of its appearance. And we only look at its appearance from one angle, and it's a temporary appearance. So we don't hold anything in this life, and we don't take anything with us in this life. If we come to that aspect deeply in our hearts, that's where that trust is born. I think that's where you come to the place where you say, oh my God, all is love. Because to really, really investigate grief and confront it, embrace it, be with it, sit with it, look at it, listen to it, it's going to take you to a place that you find you're much, much bigger than what you thought you were. You find that you're much bigger than what you thought you were. You're not just a little thing trying to hold down a story and a big feeling anymore. You're a container without limits that can hold all different types of stories and all different types of feelings at once. And that's a very interesting thing. And if you can hold them all at once without needing it to be necessarily under the umbrella of positive or negative or this way or that way, now you're in a whole different territory. And in that territory, if you can hold them without needing them to be a certain way, that's an essential piece that we all must at some time discover. The essential piece that isn't at conflict with grief. So if there's grief there, or there's no grief there, it's fine. Brokenness is always held in wholeness. You know? All of our closed doors are all held in the openness of this moment. All of our brokenness is held in the wholeness of what can't be divided. Yeah? And so that peace, it's not something that we can have more or less of, or that is there sometimes or isn't there other times. It's like a ground that is inescapable. All we have to do is just recognize that it's there. And the way we recognize that it's there is that in ourselves we stop being at odds. Stop being at odds or opposition, putting opposites against each other. Saying that this feeling is good and this feeling is bad, and this feeling is light and this feeling is dark, and in order to have peace I must only have this one. It's like, no, like you can be at peace with all of them anytime. With whatever is there. And then the negative ones, the ones that we think that we shouldn't have, then they look very, very, very different. And they're welcome, they're invited. And now they become our teachers. Now we can learn from them, now we can listen to them, now we can gain the wisdom from them. And that's the path of the wounded healer, no? Like we don't have healers, we don't have shamans or mystics or sages without conflict, without suffering, without difficulty. The only reason we can talk about difficulty and go into these places is because we've been there. And so when we have circles or places and the conversation is only around what is light and peaceful and joyful, that's another strategy of avoidance. It's not the whole picture. It's a place of denial. I was listening to one of my good friends and a good teacher the other day. He has a podcast. I hadn't listened to him for a while, but he's a neuroscientist and a researcher, and he's sharing just how in some of the researchers they have some meditators who spend many hours a day in retreat sitting and reflecting on these difficult aspects in the mind, no? Because they're not sitting there passively resting in silence. They're addressing difficult contracting emotions and sensations as they arrive, grief, anxiety, and all the neuroses as it arises. So there's not a non-avoidance in the practice. And he was saying in the research, you would think that somebody who spends hours a day addressing and sitting with difficulty, that they would be a miserable person. But the research was the complete opposite. They had a lot of joy, a lot of contentment, a lot of love, a lot of compassion. Because they're not afraid of these things, because they work with these things, because they address these things. And it's when we turn away from these things that in that place of turning away from it, we go into a place of denial, we go into a place of darkness, we go into a place of avoidance, and sometimes we don't even realize it. And it makes a whole face out of ourselves, a mask. I'd say spirituality is taking off the mask, not wearing a mask. And that means not playing a role, not being scripted in such a way. Yeah. And so that means having the permission to be here, having the permission to be present. It's such an unfortunate thing I see in so many spiritual circles. Sometimes, I open up social media and I see some of the things that people say, and I think, what planet are they living on? When we always think that it should be coming from another planet, or that we need to get to another planet, or that, our salvation is somewhere far away, or that all we need is light codes from a different dimension, or that we belong to a different timeline, or this or that. It's so sad. It's like, no avoiding, no denial, just right here and now, nothing else. This is the only thing there is for you in this moment. If you can fully be there and realize that is the whole path. to find that presence and awareness that is unencumbered from all of the ties towards anything else. I was thinking the other day, it's like we see in a lot of spiritual circles, medicine circles as well. We get this craving, this longing for something distant, for something that is otherworldly, for something that is extraordinary, something that is beyond ourselves. I say that beyond doesn't mean over the hills on the other side of the clouds. Beyond means what is beyond your reckoning of it, beyond your recognition of it. Beyond is the immediacy of recognition. Beyond is not far away, it's immediate. It has an immediacy to it. And so beyond is lifting the veil. It's not going over there, it's lifting the veil and seeing clearly. And this other idea of trying to get somewhere else to find the thing, it's like I see so many people, there's like catchphrases of finding home, no? Like in a one day sense, like one day we will find home. That Ram Dass quote, we're all just walking each other home. It's like I never actually liked that, because I'm like, where are you walking to? You're going far away. Where are you taking these people? Huh? You're taking them away from their home? Where are you guys going? Hand in hand, there's like a picture of Jesus and Krishna walking to them. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You're not walking each other home. You already are home. You've never left home. There's nothing else you could be other than home. If it was somewhere else, that's the definition of hell, because for eternity you're looking for something else that you'll never find outside of yourself. Definition of hell. Yeah. And so to already be home, that points to a different type of peace, a different quality of peace. If you really find that, if you really see that, and if you really see that, then again we're putting the finger on the thing that is squiggly, squirmy and wriggly, telling you that it's somewhere else, telling you that it's so far away, telling you that you have so much work to do, telling you that you have so much healing to do, telling you that there's so much that can be fixed and can't be fixed and figured out, and so many books to read and do all this. It's like, sure, do all of that, but understand fundamentally it's already done. That's a whole different thing. The other side of the coin, it's already done. There's nothing to do, which means you have the full permission to enjoy as well this moment, to be at peace with grief. Because in our society we are conditioned to believe that we have so much to prove. So much to prove, so much to perform, so much to do, so much to show. At the end of the day, if you go to that bigger place, you got nothing you need to show. There's nothing you need to show or prove. So now we turn directly to the fact of your existence. Does that need any qualification? No. That immeasurable thing, that thing that is beyond qualities. And so then we take that pressure off our little self that feels so burdened by the world. And that was one of the messages from my client this week. She said, everything is love, and there's nothing that I need to do or prove to anyone. It's already done. And the level of peace in her words, in the profound spiritual truth that she was speaking, I could feel, and it was such a good message for me. Such a good reminder. Like, oh yeah, it's very true. And I think many of us know that as well. When you come back in contact with that bigger essence, that deeper essence, that very, very presence, it's not. It is this life, it is you, it is all these things, but it's also not any of those things. And so in the same way, this grieving that we carry, someday we will have to lay it all down, but trust. Can you trust that this presence, this profound space that is nameless and unknowable, that is infinite and unsurpassed, that contains all because it is all, and yet it is utterly beyond all. Can you trust Because what is it that is afraid of that? What is it that grieves that? It's something that doesn't understand that. And because it can't understand it, because it fundamentally can't understand it, you can't make knowledge out of the unknown. Fundamentally, it doesn't understand that, and it keeps grasping and grasping and grasping and grasping and grasping until you relax. So much that you get comfortable in the unknown, so much that you get comfortable in a centerless and groundless place. We want life to be linear, and linear. We say there's the beginning and there will be an end, and here I am in the middle. But when you take away all that, it's just here. No, it's a timeless moment. And you then in that place you say you are of timeless essence. And now you see we go so big. And in that big place, sometimes there is fright, trembling, and if we even look at that, there's also a profound peace to go so big, to come to your bigger nature, and to go to the presence of God, to go to the presence of love, whatever name you want to call it. None of the names will do, because there we don't say a word about it. And so coming to peace with grief, seeing how grief points us to a bigger thing, if we let it. Because I said in the beginning that we must break the heart until it opens. And the thing is that many people's heart break but don't open. So it's only like a partial truth to say we must break the heart until it opens, because some people's heart have been broken immensely so many times, and it has not made things better. No. So a broken heart is an open heart, but not always. And so we have to, if we want it to point us into a bigger direction, we have to let it. We also have to look. We have to be willing to look and turn around. I was also listening to an interview recently about a meditation teacher who went into a women's prison. And he realized that the teaching meditation wasn't working so effectively, teaching mindfulness and these things. He said people were getting angry. They weren't happy. They didn't want to do that. No? And then he said, he took a more traditional approach and went down in Buddhism what they call the Brahma Viharas, teaching compassion practice. And he said he talked about forgiveness. And all of a sudden, you could feel the weight. You could feel the burden of people who never felt like they were good enough. The burden of people who carry such a weight of shame and guilt upon their shoulders that they don't think that they are deserving of love. And so then he started working with forgiveness, he started working with compassion, and after a couple of weeks, he started talking again about mindfulness and meditation, and everyone was able to sit still. So until we look and address the burden, the difficulty, the weight in our hearts, the brokenness of our hearts, we can't find the wholeness. Until we give ourselves and each other, through recognition, the permission to exist as a child of love for no reason, without any qualification, to really recognize that just as beautiful as a flower or a sunset you are, and just as all life here you are, and it's not that one is less or more, but all life is, and all life is life. There's not one better or worse. Life is life, and that is one of the most sacred things to ever realize. And to say that you're a child of life, that's a very simple thing to say, but in a direct way, when we come to this place where we are now, to say that you're a child of life, may you know that peace in your heart, may you know that peace in your mind that is beyond understanding, that is beyond this life. And may you recognize that, so that you don't put yourself in a place where you feel that the inner child never felt like it was loved enough or felt enough or had enough to feel those things. Because that's another story. That's another story that brings us to the avoidance of what we are. Another story that brings us to the avoidance of the acceptance of these bigger things. So I said how to come to peace with grief. And it's not to do anything with grief. Grief is a beautiful creature, and you can dance with it as long as you like. It might rear its head from time to time. But when we see that it points us to a bigger nature, a bigger movement of things, There is a divine peace in that, a profound peace in that we have the capacity to know in our heart. And so when you're talking also about the afterglow after ceremony, this is what I'm talking about, watering those seeds, planting those seeds in your garden. It's like plant that seed in your garden, know that. If you know that to be true, then trust in that, and then consider what trust is in that. And then you'll see all the ways that you create to cover that or to doubt that, because that's what our brain does. That's what the mechanism does. It looks for ways to confirm our bias. If we say that we can't trust it, that it's all war out there, and AIs, everything's artificial now, and da-da-da-da, and we complain and complain and we complain, that's what we'll see. We are, the brain is like an algorithm like that. No. This is why we practice. This is why we go to ceremony. This is why we meditate. Why we do whatever you do is to keep watering the garden of that infinite, limitless love that loves you no matter what, unconditionally, and to see that it's a mirror, and to see that it's what you essentially are without the story, without the name, without any of those things. That's what I mean when I say nakedness, the naked presence. It's so far beyond the human thing. It's not a person, but it makes us more personable. It makes us more human, because now there is a place of love, and that love is very healing. Yeah. But the healing doesn't come from an individual. It's just the presence of love that is behind all individuals. So my friends, if we let this be a kind of bedrock, a foundation, to see the difficult things, that they turn us toward something tender, towards something beautiful in our own heart, to crack it open, to see the source of love, the face of love, the limitless aspect of ourself, of our presence awareness. Then when we look at those difficult things, their face changes. Now we can bear them. Now we can bear the burden. Now we can hold it. Not because we are grasping at it, because we are held by something so magnificent, so majestic. And then we can see that all things are held by that. It doesn't mean that it's all light and love, and grief needs to be merged into that or something. It just means that everything is held in that, and I trust that, and I'm at home in that. If you can trust that and be at home in that, and water the garden and the ground of love and compassion and forgiveness and acceptance and allowance and trust and truth and remembrance in your heart, then when you approach these other things, when you approach these other ideals, these other ways of looking at the mind, or drinking medicine, or living life, or entering into a relationship, or exiting a relationship, or having somebody pass away, or being at your own deathbed, then there is a bedrock. There is something there that you say, I trust in no matter what. I have no doubt in that. And the thing is, when you have no doubt in that and you trust in that, the rational part of your mind will never ever understand it. The mind will never understand it. So you say now, okay, I trust in that. Or you're looking for that, you're going to sit with that, you're going to contemplate that. What is it that I trust? What is trust? What is that big thing that is so much bigger than that? You look for that, you find that. And if it gets bigger than your doubt, and you say, yep, I'm certain about that. Now, all of us here have had moments when our certainty has outweighed our doubt tenfold. And then it creeps back in. And so it's wise to say that the mind will never understand it. And so even though there is a part of you that can be completely certain, trusting, and open towards that, when you stop to think about it, your mind will find excuses because it doesn't understand it. So now you look at the thoughts that want to rationalize it, because it can't be rationalized. It's just simple openness. That's why I always say, just come back to this presence awareness, come back to this simple openness, this uncontracted, uncomplicated place. Look and listen. And when I say that, I mean look and listen from love, because that source is love. That source is life. And the source and essence of that thing is the same source and essence of all things. Yeah. And now we are one in life. So find the ground, water the ground, water the seeds, enjoy the fruits. Have permission to enjoy the sweetness of it, even when things are bittersweet. You can still smile, yeah, you can still find love and lightness, even when things are tough. Yeah. And when things are light and it's full of joy, you can still find time to grieve. You can still celebrate the tears. It's like that. It's all of it. And if you can hear that, the cockatoos are all calling through the valley. They genuinely don't want it to be heavy at all, but a sense of sweetness, in the heart. So whatever that means, I hope that some of this has landed for you.